I'll never forget the first fish I ever caught. That's how impactful it was. And so when I was introduced to red heels and saw what they were doing, it really intrigued me. As an avid fisherman, I often get frustrated with my experience on the water. It's almost like there's this barrier that we can't get past in our fisheries. Same fish, same size, same structure, same activity, same attitude when it comes to catching them. The same thing over and over again. Why? Why is that?
From a genetic standpoint, in a lot of cases, they're just not there anymore. So the families that used to produce those fish don't exist, or they don't exist as much. If you look at, say, stringers of fish from, the 20s and 30s, pictures of, people had stringers of big fish. But if you keep fish, you're pulling those things out of the system of reproduction. You're losing that genetic diversity down the road.
A double-digit fish is really a once in a lifetime for a lot of people. And that's why I'm so excited about what Red Heels is doing. When I saw Red Heels, I knew I had seen nothing like that ever. They are a quantum leap above everything else that's been done in the bass world, especially when it comes to bass research.
There's a basic equation you learn in introductory genetics, and that's G plus E equals P, where G is the genotype or the genes, E is the environment, and P is the phenotype. And the phenotype is what you see, that's the trait. So when we're looking at trying to understand the genes of something, we want to reduce variability of the environment as much as possible. And that allows us to focus on variation within the genotype. And that's what we designed this facility to do, is reduce variability in the environment as much as possible. So when you look here in this system, all the water runs through the same filtration. So it starts with the drum screen. That filters out big things, big particulates. From there, it goes through a bioreactor, which filters out chemicals we don't want. From there, it goes to an ultraviolet sterilizer, which gets rid of the bugs we don't want, bacteria. And then it goes to a low-head oxygenator, which strips out carbon dioxide, gases we don't want, and adds in oxygen, things that we do want. All the water is the same temperature. It's all the same water quality parameters. And that allows us to reduce the amount of variability again with that E in that equation. Again, focusing on the G. Because we've built this facility and because it's controlled conditions, there's a lot of things that we can do with it. One of those is out of season spawning or a fall spawn. By conditioning the fish over the summer, we can trick them into thinking that the fall is actually the spring. This allows us not only to double our production, but it creates more tools available to the lake manager. One of these tools is an advanced sized fish in the spring of the following year. That's not something you normally see, but it's something that we can offer, and it's something that we think is going to be of great benefit to lake managers. When you look at traditional selective breeding programs, you're looking at, again, phenotypes. You're looking at what you can see in the fish. And you're assuming that the genes are there and can be reproduced and carried on in successive generations. That's not always the case. And if you don't have a really good understanding of the genes behind the traits, you can't predict with high precision what's going to come out of the other end of your breeding program. Our goal is to look directly at the genes, identify markers with the traits that are of interest to us, develop tests to assess those markers, and ensure that those markers are being passed on in successive generations of our program. The other thing we're doing is looking at families. So if you were to look at the AHABs, those small tanks that we had, you saw a whole bunch of tanks. Each one of those tanks is a separate family. And by following separate families, we can understand how those traits are passed on and to what degree they're passed on within families. In some cases, if you put a big fish and a big fish together, you might get a really big fish at the end of the day, but you might only get one. What we want to do is ensure that everything in that family is being passed on with precision and predictability. And that allows us to ensure that diversity is maintained within the population. With the goal of increasing diversity, we're focused on 4 main topics. That's growth, catchability, ultimate size, and gender. Those 4 things are, from a research perspective, the goal of our program. We've talked about growth. We're also doing work with gender, trying to identify tests that allow us to take tissue samples and determine whether a fish is a male or a female, because we know that trophies are typically females. We're also interested in ultimate size. We're looking for markers associated with really big fish. Ultimately, we need to catch fish. And in order to do that, we want fish that are aggressive and take a hook. That's why we're interested in catchability, and we've designed research programs to explore the markers associated with catchability over the long term of a production season.
As fishermen, we all dream about catching a big fish, a trophy bass. I mean, I'm talking about a gigantic fish, or even, having a day where you catch 4 or 5 pounders all day. That's a true amazing experience. I mean, catching fish in general is amazing, but if we're honest with ourselves, we all are searching for something more. There's so many variables there. Pond managers, they control the environment of that. They control water quality, they control habitat, aquatic vegetation, even the forage base. But red heels, they control the bass. They bring the bass to the table, the Titan bass, the bass that's gonna be catchable, that's gonna be aggressive, that's gonna grow fast and grow big. And I think together with pond managers, the help from pond managers, and what we're doing at Red Hills with our Titan bass, we will break the bass barriers.